How's it going, everyone? Today we are going to be unboxing a liquid cooler and installing it into this PC right here. Let me show you what we're dealing with at the moment. So we have a 3950X that we're going to be cooling using a 360mm radiator. Now the one I have installed right now is from Lian Li, as you can see, and it's the Galahad 360, and the radiator is mounted on the very front right here. I'm kind of doing like a push-pull configuration. We have 3 of Lian Li's uni fans, the same fans like throughout the whole system basically, on the very front, blowing cool air in through these tiny gaps in the front of the case. Believe it or not, yeah, despite me actually thinking, and so many other people commenting down below in my original unboxing of this PC case, saying that the temperatures are going to be absolutely terrible in this case, to my surprise, they're actually quite okay. Now, I think this case is like comparable to something like an NZXT H700i, I think, because of like how similar, I guess, the cooling layout is for the front. But I mounted the radiator on the very front here, and I even added 2 extra fans to help like blow air onto the graphics card and like every other component inside. So it's basically like a push-pull configuration, but you know, it's like a 5-fan push-pull. Is that weird? Maybe. But we're gonna swap this liquid cooler out for one reason and one reason only, and that is solely for the fact that I reckon the new one I bought will look slightly better in this system than this Lian Li Galahad. Now, I want to make it very clear that personally, my experience with this Galahad 360 has been very, very good. I actually ended up undervolting my CPU this morning, and I'm very surprised by how far I could push the undervolt while still maintaining my overclock on it. So let me show you what I'm even running. We'll run some tests on Cinebench. We'll see how high the temperatures get up to. Now, I did already do some testing prior to starting this video, because the moment I start recording, I turn on like all these studio lights and like it really heats up the room. So bear in mind, like the ambient room temperature right now, it's getting warm, okay? So the temperatures will obviously be affected. Now, I'm gonna just hit go on Cinebench, and this is gonna do its thing, and let me show you what we're dealing with in terms of the temperature. You can keep an eye on it right there. So yeah, we're kind of at around 73 degrees, which is still, oh no, that's bad. Maybe I should increase the voltage. Hold up. Quick change of plans. I'm gonna run one test right now, running on auto, just to show you like what the CPU kind of like runs at in terms of voltage and what the temperatures get up to during a Cinebench run. So I'm gonna hit go. Let's pray that we don't randomly crash like we did last time. Now this is running on precision boost overdrive, like auto settings, so the CPU is overclocking itself, and at the moment, oh dear Lord, we're sitting at a toasty 87 degrees Celsius. Oh Lord, it's climbing. Now we will achieve a pretty decent score, I think, on Cinebench, but keep an eye on the clock speed. We're only boosting to around 4.5 gigahertz right now. So it's not that impressive in terms of like an all-core overclock. And if you look at my Cinebench result, it's even less impressive for a 3950X, where we only got 8,800. Like I say only, that's still an incredible score, but it could be significantly better. Now I've just enabled the overclock I was running before. I'm gonna keep the peak core voltage at 1.25, and then we have half the CPU on 4.4 and the other half on 4.3 gigahertz in terms of clock speeds. I'm gonna reset these values right here, but bear in mind that on precision boost overdrive, we hit 88 degrees Celsius, and look at those voltages. We hit a max of like 1.48. That's crazy. So let me clear min-max, and then let's do one more run. Hopefully you don't crash on me. Yeah, all good. Let's keep an eye on the temperatures using Ryzen Master, and then we'll also see the max that it goes up to using hardware monitor. But look at this, we're hitting way higher clock speeds at a way lower voltage. Beautiful. And I think we dropped about 40 to 50 watts on CPU power, whilst also dropping about 10 degrees in Celsius. Beautiful. So undervolting the CPU and then putting an overclock on it has given us way better results. Now, the only downside to this overclock is that my single core performance has been significantly reduced. This CPU is capable of boosting to around 4.5, 4.6 gigahertz on a couple of the cores, but I'd rather have better all-core performance than better single-core performance because of the kind of work that I'm doing on this PC. But take a look at that score. We gained about like, what, 800 points right there using this overclock. Now, the highest I've gotten using the CPU is probably like 10,200 or 10,100, but that was running an even more aggressive overclock. But I've dialed it back down for the sake of system stability, because that's really what I want. The last thing I want this thing doing is crashing on me like it did a couple minutes ago. But that's pretty much the Cinebench run. Now we kind of know what we're dealing with in terms of the temperatures. We have to hopefully aim for around 78 degrees with this new liquid cooler. Once we install it, we'll see what we get. If you want to, feel free to leave a comment down below. You can vote whether or not you think our temperatures are going to drop or go up once we switch to this ENERMAX LIQMAX III addressable RGB liquid cooler. Now this liquid cooler here of course supports like all your major ARGB softwares like ASUS, you know, MSI, all the good stuff is covered here. So without further ado, let's get this thing unboxed. I'll switch to GoPro mode and we'll get it all installed, and hopefully, you know, the system will just look absolutely amazing, because that is literally the only reason I bought this thing. What is this, man? What is this packaging? Oh, my bad. It opens up like this. Okay, we get a user's manual on how to install this thing. This cooler is available in 120, 240, 280, and 360 millimeter. We got the 360. The main reason, I guess, like of getting a 360 as opposed to like the other ones, you can run lower fan speeds whilst achieving obviously better temperatures because you got like more surface area on the radiator, and at the same time we can get away with running slightly lower fan speeds and achieving a slightly quieter system. On the bottom we have a copper cold plate that's cool to the touch. The entire radiator is pretty standard. I mean, yeah, this is like super standard radiator. I like the tubing on this one, seems nice. It comes with 3, I'm guessing, addressable RGB fans. However, I will not be using these. I'm going to be sticking to my LIAN Li uni fans that are inside the case already. What's rather nice is that it actually came with a 3-pin 5-volt ARGB splitter cable. Always handy to have these around in case you run out of headers on your motherboard. Now, in terms of the RGB control, this is how you would set it all up. Now, if you have a motherboard that doesn't have ARGB 5-volt 3-pin headers, then don't you worry, you can use the included inline controller, but bear in mind, in order to change the lighting effects of the liquid cooler, you will have to probably reach inside your case and manually press these buttons right here to adjust lighting effects and light speed or whatever. But instead of using this, you can go ahead and just, you know, throw this back in the box and simply use this cable right here. So the 4-pin header will plug into the liquid cooler itself like this. There you go. That's going to plug in right there. And then this is just, you know, a standard 3-pin 5-volt ARGB splitter cable, or not even a splitter cable. Wait, this is a splitter cable, isn't it? Because you could plug in another thing into this. Wow. They include like two splitter cables. Good on you. So you would plug this into your motherboard and then you're good to go. Yeah, very simple. There's just 2 cables coming out of it. One, of course, to power the pump, and the other to power the LEDs inside of there. You know, that's gonna light up and everything, but that's pretty much all of it. I need to look through the manual and figure out how on earth I'm gonna assemble all of this and which bracket I need to use for the AM4 AMD platform. Okay, so they're gonna use this kind of mounting method. Sounds good to me. Cool. If you've also bought this cooler to save you a little bit of time, for AMD, you would use the smaller looking brackets right here. You can look at the parts list just to double check, but the smaller ones are for AMD, and then the bigger bracket right here is for Intel, just so you know. You can pick up these Noctua thermal paste wipes on Amazon, which personally I've been using them for quite a while. I really like them, and they do a very nice job at like getting rid of all the thermal paste from your liquid cooler or your CPU. So this is actually like kind of scratched up if I'm being honest, but there you go. That's like as clean as I'm gonna get it. Alright, so I'm just about ready to install the cooler. I've gone ahead and built this, which is going to be going through the back of my motherboard. I can show you right now. The 4 screws are going to poke through, as you can hopefully see over there. But this is how it should end up looking like in the end. So I even put like this, I guess, protector thingy here, so I don't have like metal touching the back of my motherboard. So this will hopefully protect it. And 4 screws have gone through here. I'm on AM4, so I've followed the instructions that the liquid cooler told me. And yeah, this is how it should end up looking like. So I'm gonna put this through there. When it comes to thermal paste, I'm using the Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut. This is always like a nerve-wracking moment. Will she boot? Probably, because what is that noise? Well, it's turning on. It looks pretty good. Problem solved. Oh, we're in, but my keyboard is not plugged in. Nice, I plugged in like the wrong USBs. This is how the system is currently looking like, but it's kind of hard to see because everything is so tinted through the side panel. So if we open it up a little bit, you can have a look inside. I reckon that liquid cooler looks so much better, and I reckon it would look better if I remember to actually take the plastic off. There you go. That looks so nice, dude. I am very, very happy with the end result right here. It turned out looking so nice. It's such a simple design. There's just a little bit of RGB around it, but it's in the shape of a square. It kind of matches the Lian Li Unifan design, if you get what I mean. Okay, I've been using this liquid cooler for a little while now, and I have some numbers to report back with. So I did run a test one time successfully using Cinebench at 1.212 volts using my 4.4/4.3 gigahertz overclock. Now, how on earth I managed to run the CPU at this voltage and it was stable, I don't have a clue, because you saw at the very start of this video, I tried to do the same run again at that voltage and you straight up saw my PC randomly turn off. Well, not randomly. That was probably because the voltage was way too low. But I did have one successful run and we did achieve 68 degrees Celsius as a maximum temperature using that liquid cooler. However, this voltage was not stable and I have since bumped it back up to 1.25 volts, and I did run some tests during this video as well at 1.25 volts, and the max we hit on the Galahad 360 was indeed 78 degrees Celsius. Now, once again, bear in mind that the room temperature was probably a few degrees Celsius higher than it usually is because of these lights, and like all the other lights in the room, it really does heat this room up, like, I ain't joking. But with the new ENERMAX 360 liquid cooler here, it does use a different mounting method, and I truly believe that that will have a slight impact on our CPU temperatures. I think that this one is actually cooling the CPU ever so slightly better than the Lian Li Galahad, to my surprise. Like, I genuinely thought that this was like a lower quality liquid cooler, but at the same voltage, using the same thermal paste, everything, this is able to cool the CPU. I would say maybe 2 to 4 degrees higher. Now, the reason I say 2 to 4 degrees higher is because I reckon that the room temperature was actually like slightly higher whilst I was recording this video. So 78 degrees might not be like the best example right here. So I'm guessing the Lian Li Galahad would probably stabilize at around like 76, maybe 75. But this is still ever so slightly better at cooling the CPU, in my opinion. Obviously, maybe like margin of error type of thing, but I'm still very impressed given the price of this cooler, how cheap it is. It's pretty damn good. Like, bearing in mind, this is a 16-core CPU and everything. I'm very, very happy with this result. And I have since dialed in a manual overclock within BIOS actually. So these settings are here to stay. And honestly, if you have a Ryzen CPU, try to undervolt it because it really helped my system. Like, the temperatures are so much cooler now. We're sitting at like 37 degrees Celsius right here during idle basically, but very, very happy. I can even go ahead and like turn off Adobe Premiere and we can run a Cinebench run just to finish this video off, and you can see in real time, I guess, what the temperatures climb up to. Now, before I started the video, I did do a test run of Cinebench and we hit a max of 74 degrees Celsius. So yeah, we're already at 77. So I'm guessing the room has increased in temperature by around 3 degrees Celsius at the moment. That's why we've hit 77 degrees, but still pretty damn good. I'm very happy. 78 degrees Celsius, yeah, basically the same result as the Lian Li Galahad, lol. maybe they're like the same performance. But there you go, man. Just shy of 10,000 score on Cinebench. Super happy. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I'm gonna end it here. Of course, there will be plenty of links in the video description down below to like all the PC parts, including the old liquid cooler, the new liquid cooler. I'll put the thermal paste that I used as well, because if you want to drop your CPU temperature and you haven't yet considered buying Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut, I swear this is not sponsored. I got the idea to buy the Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut thermal paste from Gamers Nexus Steve, because he would always do like advertisements on his videos with Thermal Grizzly. So if Thermal Grizzly, if you're watching this, please sponsor me as well, because I really do like your product. And I remember switching from like normal crappy thermal paste to your thermal paste, and my temperatures genuinely dropped. So if your CPU's overheating, chances are you might need better thermal paste to, you know, help cool the CPU and dissipate all the heat. So check them out. Not sponsored, I swear, just a product that I've genuinely had a good experience with. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'll see you guys in another video soon. Goodbye.